Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform Show, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals. Today, I have with me a special guest, Mr. Anthony Diggs Sr. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
So, Anthony and I met a number of years ago. We had lunch together, and we were talking about getting into real estate, just the very beginning. And I've been watching Anthony over the years just grow into this beast of a gentleman, a great human, the work that he's doing in the real estate world, building up his rental portfolio, and just outside of that, what he gives to the tenants. I mean, Anthony, you share those text messages that your tenants, how much appreciation they show for you because of what you bring to them, what you give to them, and just your overall attitude. So, Anthony, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, where you come from, and then we'll just jump right into it.
All right. Well, Tyrus, thank you for having me on your show. Really appreciate it. My name is Anthony Diggs. I was born and raised in Liberia, West Africa. I came to the U.S. at age 13 as an immigrant, and we settled in Trenton, New Jersey. I didn't really understand the language barriers. I didn't really have access to, quality school education. And through it all, I was able to find my way towards the American dream. I went to college, graduated with a bachelor, biological science pre-med, and then I got my master in counseling education setting. So just looking to do my thing.
Amazing, amazing. Now, just share with us a little bit about that journey from Liberia to New Jersey. And we know that New Jersey has a reputation for not being the nicest place in the world. So take us through your childhood, your upbringing, and just that mindset that what made you even want to go to college? What made you want to take that next step?
Well, man, at 4 years old, when I was in Liberia, we had a civil war that started. Liberia is a small country that's located on the west side of Africa. It was started because when the slaves were being freed from America, they wanted to find a place for them to go. So then they took some slaves from South Carolina and took them to Liberia and colonized the country. So the free slave that left from here and went to Liberia, they then took the indigenous people and then enslaved them as a payback for selling them into slavery. So that took place for over 100 plus years. And in 1989, the indigenous people said, we had enough. So they started a civil war. So that started when I was 4 years old. And then my whole childhood was just chaotic. I remember gunshots, sleeping outside, fleeing from one country to another. So I wasn't really in school. There was days and days where we just walked, trying to, survive, trying to fight for our life. And then we made it to a nearby country, Guinea, where we was a refugee. We were staying outside. We didn't have no place to sleep, nowhere to go. And then from there, they kicked us out because they said a lot of us were child soldiers who went back to Liberia. And then the war started again. And then we went to Ivory Coast. And in Ivory Coast was when we went to Ghana, where we then was on a refugee camp and the UNICEF program started. So through that, we applied for asylum to the U.S. And I was one of 13 siblings. They're not biologically related to my mom, but we all grew up in the same house. Okay. And then from Ghana was where we applied for asylum in the U.S. And then we came to Trenton, New Jersey, thinking that life in America was going to be different. But we went right into the hood. And, it was guns, it was drugs. It was almost like Liberia again. But there, I didn't see any role model. I didn't see anybody want to go to college. I've never had anybody in my family went past high school education. So there, it was a lot of gang violence. Teachers didn't really believe in us. We got like the bad teachers that really wasn't good to teach in Princeton or Ewing or Hamilton area. But through that all, I just kept saying, I was a diamond in the rough. I was like, I just need somebody to believe in me. And I also just need to show people what I have in me. And everybody that was around me, all my friends was going to jail. They were joining gangs. Some of them was dying. And I just kept telling myself, I didn't want this to be my life. Like I had to make meaning of my life. And I remember in high school, my senior year, we took the SAT and I got 625. And I remember like, okay, where's the rest of my school? Because the maximum school was like 1,600. I was like, where's the rest of my school? So I called or the testing center, like, hey, you guys forgot to send the other half of my score. They're like, nah. I was like, nah, that's all your score right there. Oh, I think you got like 400 for writing your name. So I was just like, oh, wow. So when I went back and showed my teacher, she was just like, yeah, your chance of going to college is slim to none. I was like, really? She was like, yeah. And then the manager of McDonald's came in our classroom and was handing out applications. And I just like, something got to give. So I met this guy who was my mentor. His name was Gary. And he was like, I'm going to take you around. I'm going to show you places. He'll drive me into Princeton. He'll have me see like the nicer neighborhood. He was like, if you continue to focus, this is what you could do. I'm going to continue to invest in you as long as you want to do something with your life. So I went back, took the SAT. I ended up getting 900.
Okay.
And when I went to apply for college, I applied for 17. I got rejected out of 16. And I had one that said, we'll take a chance on you. But before that interview, he was just like, based on your SAT score, your background, not having any family member that ever went to college, or the math indicate you won't be successful. And I remember telling him that, I know you believe in the math, you believe in the numerics. However, what I have overcome in my life, SAT score it is way more than 1600. I've seen the bottom of the bottom and I've seen the worst of the worst, but I still have, determination and drive to be successful. So I wanted to make something out of my life. I was like, just give me an opportunity. After first semester, if I don't do well, you can kick me out. He was like, fine, I know you're going to drop out, but I'm going to go ahead and get an opportunity. So they accepted me into rowing. And I think the first semester I ended up on the dean list because I just told myself that nobody was ever going to outwork me. I didn't come from wealth. I didn't come from a 2-parent household. I didn't come from the right race. I didn't come from the right environment. I didn't come from the right schooling. But there was no reason why anybody would ever outwork me. I remember in college, I never got more than 3 hours of sleep. And that's a promise I made to myself. And sometimes I would be so sleepy and I would go to the local store, to the ShopRite. I'll grab a bucket of ice, water, put it underneath my table, put my feet in it just so I can go to sleep. And I just said, I'm going to make sure I graduate college and I graduate with a higher mark. And, I ended up graduating with bio pre-med, did a little bit of medical program at Stanford because at that time I was interested in medicine. And then, just started trucking from there on.
Wow. That's a powerful story. And just to hear the sheer determination because um, you're blessed. I mean, to make it out of what you came through, to leave one area that was going through the Civil War and everything, you made it through that. Then to come here to Trenton, New Jersey, and drop right back into the hood with all those issues where a lot of people just don't make it out. So there was something that was guiding, covering you in order to fulfill a greater purpose that's probably bigger than you. I don't know if you've realized it or if you've seen it, but there is definitely a calling for you and a purpose because you're still here through all of that. And then the determination just to go to college and to work your way there. Like you said nobody will outwork you. How did you maintain that mentality while going through or having been through everything you did? How did you overcome the childhood that you had, the painful past? How did you work through that?
I think my first disadvantage or my first advantage, as I like to call it in life, is I was born with a deformed left arm. So I only have one right arm. I use, and out of 13 kids, being the only one, I look different. I feel it's different. Your mom being called a witchcraft, her scene was actually being projected on you, and you walking around with that. Nobody want to associate with you because you don't look like all the other kids. And I think deep down, I just kept telling myself that God had a purpose for me, that my life had a meaning. And even though I didn't look like every other kid, I didn't have like the 2-parent household, I only had one arm to use. I knew that deep down, I had to have a meaning on this earth. And it was my job to find out what that purpose is. And one of the things I did was I read a lot of autobiography, a lot of different people, that I admire, like the Oprah Winfrey, the Word. I follow Steve Jobs. I follow Floyd Mayweather. Everything, the amount of work ethic he have to put in. I follow a lot of successful people, and one thing I've always discovered is that they all had adversity that they had to go through. They all had, they went down to the bottom, the valley of things where they had to question themselves: do I really want to do what I'm doing? You had to ask yourself that question. And I'll look at myself in the mirror and say, look, you had a bad day, but don't let the bad day turn into a bad week, and don't let the bad week turn into a bad month. Watch it off, have a positive mindset. And I just kept telling myself that I too can do it, because success is something that it takes a while to obtain. It's like if you want to go look for a job, for example, going back to my college thing, I applied to 17 colleges, got rejected out of 16, but I didn't give up. That was 16 rejection that could have taken me down, but I didn't give up. I held on to that one who had opportunity, who believed in me. So when I'm looking at all these disadvantages, as people call it, not being able to speak the language, being black, being in the hood, seeing a lot of kids die, I'm like, look, I just got to keep trucking. I just got to keep believing. I have a dream in me that I have to protect. I have to nurture my dream. I have to cradle it. I have to keep it like a baby, and I have to make sure that nobody talk me out of it, because there are people who will say, how you going to type paper when you're in college? You got one arm. How you going to be a doctor when you're in college? You got one arm. How you going to even understand the language when you couldn't even write? There was like 3 or 4 years I wasn't in school because I was in the jungle surviving the Civil War, bullet flying over my head, not having any food to eat. And that was my life for a while. So when I look at all that, I think it's a blessing. I look at it as a blessing, because when you have overcome such an adversity that I did at an early age, everything else is minuscule. Everything else is minuscule. So that's how I look at it.
And that's very good, because it's very true that when you go through that, things that are a big deal to other people just not a big deal. You can look at it at the situation and say, you know what, even though I'm going through this right now, it's not like being in the jungle. It's not like flying over your head. So I can make it through this. Now, let's fast forward a little bit, and I'm gonna come back and revisit some of the upbringing in Africa and then the United States. But let's dial into now. From what I see, you went into real estate. What took you to that pathway? What made you, or what was your job coming out of college, and then how did you pivot to real estate?
When I got out of college, when I had to go to interview, I would hide my arm because I didn't want people to see that I was disabled. And sometimes when they see you disabled and you're trying to do pharmaceutical research, they put 2 and 2 together and like, he's not a good fit. So I hide my arm, and I'll wait till I get a job. Then they'll see me on the first day and like, well, what's going on?
New arm.
New arm. So it's just been crazy. It's just been crazy. But when I got out of college, I got a job with Arm & Hammer doing pharmaceutical research. And I remember they didn't know I was disabled till I got there the first day. And the guy was like, "You okay?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, what's going on over there? But anyway, I got that job, and I didn't really. It wasn't a lot of passion in it for me. There was money, but there wasn't passion in it for me. And I remember struggling trying to find my passion because it was just so stressful. It was very, very stressful of being a pharmaceutical, researcher. And then I was like, I took a job at Princeton teaching experiential education. And there, when I was talking to the kids from the inner city, I found out like, I like talking to people, and I like to share my experience with them. So from there, I decided to go and get my master's in counseling education setting. So after I got that, I moved to Maryland, thinking about, getting a job as a school counselor. So when I did that, I started to get paid a decent amount of money, but every month I look at my check and I look at my student loan, and I'm like, something is not adding up here. So, like, something is not adding up here. I got a bachelor, I got a master, and why am I struggling every month to just pay my bill, to just keep afloat, to put gas in my car? And I said, well, I can do this for 65 years, or I can go back to that kid I was, and I can believe in myself and take the route that nobody was taking, which was, going to college and trying to do something right with my life. So I started watching stuff on HGTV, and I always had a passion for flipping houses, for, investing in houses. Because when I was on a refugee camp, that's what we used to do. We used to go around, help people build houses out of mud and tree.
Okay.
So I had that from an early stage in my life. But I didn't know anybody that looked like me that was into real estate that I can go to and I can ask questions. And I remember having a meeting with my frat brother. It was 7 of us, but we didn't know nobody, and we was all afraid because it was like everybody got to bring $5,000 to the table.
Yep.
And at that time, I didn't have no money in my account. I was floating. I was barely keeping my head above water. It was one day where one of my frat brother met. He introduced me to this guy at a party. His name was Darren Smith, and he was like, "Yeah, I flip houses." He was young. He was a brother like myself. He was like, "I flip houses." I was like, "You flip houses?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "No way." He was like, "Yeah, I do it for real." I was like, "No way." He was like, "Give me your phone." So he put his number in my phone, and then he sent me a book called "Flipping Houses on a Shoestring Budget." And I went and I read the book. I think I devoured it in less than a day, and I implemented all his strategy in there. And the first 2 weeks, I think I made $5,000 in wholesaling. I was like, this is too easy. I was like, this is like too easy.
Yeah.
So I then took that money and I went off on a hard money lender 3 weeks later, and I decided to purchase my first investment property, my first rental. And then since then, I just got bit by the bug, and I've been doing it on the side, but I also still have my job as a school counselor. So I've been, doing that in Baltimore. So
Okay.
that's how I got into it.
Absolutely. And so right now, how do you think the job is going in Baltimore as a counselor? Because it seems like you also have a passion for the kids and making sure that you're giving back to the youth. Is that why you still remain there?
Yes. I really have. I really believe that when you're in a school setting, in an education setting, it's good to see somebody that look like you in a higher position, whether they're talking to you or whether they're interacting with you. But the fact that you see somebody representation that look like yourself is very powerful. And also, there are a lot of kids who might think the worst they can go through in life is posting a picture on Instagram or some social media site and somebody not liking it.
Mm,
Or the worst that they can do is they're growing up in a single parent household and they feel like that life has just ended, that they can't do nothing with themselves, or they might have dyslexia, or they might not be advanced in terms of the education or pathway that they should be on. And I'm usually there and I tell them, like, I have every reason to quit in life. I was born disabled. I'm a black male. I didn't understand the language. I had to learn English the proper way here. I was in the hood. I was in a single parent household. Oh, geez, I went like 17 years. I was seeing my biological mom when I came here. My dad was in and out of my life, so I didn't really get to see him like that. And when I got rejected out of colleges, I could have quit. I could have said, "No, what?" I said, "I'm gonna just go to the corner and go hustle. I'm gonna go sell drugs. I'm gonna do the norm." But I didn't do that. I stuck with the process. I stuck with the process. It's consistency over intensity. Nowadays, kids want something, they want it now. But when you're trying to be successful, it's a little bit of every day that you have to truck at it. A little bit where you got to do a little bit. You got to go steady. It's like going to the gym. You
yeah.
go there every day, and then eventually you see the huge outcome. Eventually you see the result. Things that come easily are not worth it. So I tell kids, like, you gotta, success will always be predictable if you continue to work at it. It's one thing that you can't put filter on. You can put filter on pictures, you can put filter on weight, but success, you have to pay the full price. You have to. It's gonna be the same today, tomorrow, and forever. You have to pay the full price because life has ways of testing you to see if you really want what you say you want. And you have to pay that price. So when I tell them and I share my story with them, they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you went through all that. You don't look like it." And you know what? Now I'm gonna go try harder in my science class. Now I'm gonna go home and read that book. Now I'm gonna apply to college. Now I'm gonna do the necessary things that I need to study up for the SAT, the ACT, or my exam that's coming up. So that, impacting wisdom into kids, because you get that mind and you are like a nurturer of that brain, of that mind. So the words you speak over them and what you impart in them can last for years and years to come. So I really like that they see that I didn't come from the traditional place, but I'm at a place where I've worked, and they too can do the same thing if they're willing to pay that price to be successful. So that's one of the reasons why I'm still in the education endeavor. That's one of the reasons why I still like working with kids, because a lot of them just struggle, whether it's with self-esteem issue, whether it's with what society tell them that they can be or they can be. And I'm there to tell them, you know what, you can be whatever you want to be, as long as you are willing to work hard towards it. Simple.
Man, that's good. I love that you said consistency over intensity, because some people just think that, hey, we can just go hard at it for a little while and then we'll just blow up. And it doesn't work that way. It takes time. And that's where we have the illusion of the overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
People just wake up and they just successful. And we're like, oh, what happened? But when you go back in their background, they've been doing this thing for 10, 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They just blow up and it seems like an overnight success. But they say you can't take the elevator to success, you got to take the stairs. Go
You have to.
floors. So now when we met, so how many units did you have when we first met, when we had lunch?
I think I had like 2.
Okay, so you were just getting out,
Just
out.
baby step.
And now where are you at, if you don't mind sharing with units?
22.
22 units. And
Mhm.
that's only been that ain't been that many years. I can't remember exactly when, but I don't think it's been that many years since we've met. No more than 3 or 4.
No more than that.
So you have grown tremendously in that time. And I want to bring what you put in your post all the time, your quotes. Trust the process, know the game. Explain that to me.
Trust the process is literally having a routine. It's when you wake up in the morning, I'm a savior person. I follow the savior mentality with the silence affirmation, the visualization, the exercise, the reading, and the scribing. So I follow that. I follow the savior method. So having that consistency. So every day, it's cliche that people say we all got 24 hours, but in reality, we all do have 24 hours. What you do with your 24 hours and what I do with my 24 hours can put me closer to my goal or can put me further away from my goal. So do I wake up at 8 o'clock, at 10 o'clock? I have that choice to make, or I can wake up at 4 and get an early start. So I can start at 4, do my saver, and from there, do everything that I write down, do my affirmations, and then see what my goals are for that day. What is my goal for the 6 months? What is my goal for the year? And then do something towards that goal. So, for example, when you go to the gym, people think it's hard to be in the gym for an hour, but the hardest part of trying to be physically healthy is the 23 hour outside of the gym.
Yep.
It's what you eat. Being in the gym for an hour is easy. It's what you put in your body after that makes the difference. So once I wake up and I do my saver, what then do I do for that 23 hours after I do that hour saver? Do I sit and watch TV? Do I go out there and do driving for dollar? Do I call an investor and try to have lunch with him or her, try to build that relationship? What it is that I'm doing every day that's aligning, that's taking me towards my goal every day consistently. What am I doing? So at the end of the day, I have to ask myself, and I'm very big on checklists. So I'm writing down my goals in the morning, and then I'm seeing what it is I'm doing from the time I wake up at 6 to the time I go to bed at 9. What have I done to get closer to that goal? And then whether it's formulating or not, whether I'm seeing result or not, I know that I'm doing something towards it every day, and eventually I'm going to see the result. It comes to the same concept as farmers. You plant the seed,
Yep.
You water it, and you don't just see it out like that. You don't go digging it if you don't see it coming out. You're watering it every day, and you're understanding that eventually you're gonna see that tree sprout. Eventually, you're gonna see that fruit. Eventually, you're gonna harvest something. So that consistency over time will equal result. So that's trusting the process.
Okay.
And you're gonna get rejected. People are gonna say no to you. And when they say no to me, I'm just telling myself they're saying no to who I am right now, but they're not gonna say no to who I'm gonna become in the future. So it's okay. A
Good.
couple of no them is not gonna break me. It's okay. It's gonna build muscle. It's that that pushing the failure concept that maybe I didn't have the right answer, maybe I didn't have the right verbiage, but eventually they're gonna say yes to me. And I just gotta trust the process. Know the game is, based on my life, I didn't come from a family where people was rich. My mom in Liberia, her yearly salary is $2,500 US.
Wow.
My brother worked as a custom agent. His monthly salary is his yearly salary is actually $350 US. And
Wow.
he's lucky if he makes $30 US a month. That's a good day. So I didn't have that knowledge. So my thing is at 18, 19, I have a gap between the actual people who have family that was in business, who started learning from an early process. I have that gap of people who, started reading books, because that's one thing people don't understand. Like, there are things that I'm going through that the answers are in books.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
you have library that's free in every community, every city. I just need to take my driver license, get a library card, and I can devour a book and find answers to things I'm overcoming, especially in business. So what I don't know is gonna cost me. So knowledge is power, to say that, but wasted knowledge, having knowledge and not applying it is potential. Having knowledge is potential power, but having knowledge and not taking action, and taking action is actual power. Because you can know everything you want, but if you're stuck in the analysis paralysis stage, especially when it comes to real estate, you just have it, but you're not doing nothing with it. You have to go out there, you have to fail. And the thing about failure in business versus in school, when I, got a 625 my SAT, I felt like, man, I'm so dumb. Like, how can I get 625 and 400 for writing my name? Like, who's gonna hire me? But in business, when you fail, there are things that I feel in real estate where I know it's gonna make me millions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it's gonna make me millions as long as I'm willing to, adapt to that process and tweak it a little bit and then implement it better on the next project.
Yeah.
So that's why I love business, because failure is money if you're learning from it. In school, they teach you the opposite. That failure means that you're not smart. So having that knowledge and going out, paying for seminar, paying for classes, paying for mentorship, paying to close that gap that you didn't get, and learning and becoming a student of the game every day is where you have to know the game, because all this is a game. It's all a game. You have to make sure you know the right people. You have to make sure you have the right information, and then you have to use that information once you have it. You have to implement.
That's good. And especially with knowing the game, like they say, for some people, they don't, they, they're in the building, but they're not playing the game. Some
Nope.
people not even in the building. They don't even know the game at all.
Mhm.
And you're very correct. And that's all it is. It's a game. It's a system.
Mhm.
Anybody can be successful in that system if you get in and learn. And I like what you said about paying your way through for seminars, for education, for mentorship, for partnership. A lot of people get into, especially real estate, thinking that you should come in and people should help you along the way without you contributing, or help me get there, or do me a favor. No, everybody has to work to get to where they are. And it's not all about money. It's about resources. It's about time. If you need a mentor, and that's for people who may be new and you want a mentor, go and offer your time to someone who is established in the game.
Mhm.
Tell them that, hey, I don't have any money. And it's an upfront conversation. I think that's another thing that people are afraid to have, is an upfront conversation. Look, I don't have money. I'm broke, but I'm willing to do what I need to do to get into this game. How can you help me? And how can I be of value to you?
Mhm.
Because if it's mutual beneficial to both parties, you'll get a mentor or a coach without having to put out a lot of money. Another thing that I like that you hit on was books. People don't want to read,
Mhm.
but when you're looking for that mentor, a lot of people have put all of their life into books, especially autobiographies. All of our you Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, all of our motivational speakers have written books. All of our successful business people have written books. And those books define exactly what they went through. I remember I went to a seminar one time and the guy was just giving an overview. And he was like, yeah, I wrote a book and I put my seminar in the book and I sell it for $14.99. But I used to sell the seminar for $15,000.
Mm.
And he put the whole seminar in the book. So you didn't even have to do the seminar anymore. You could just read the book.
Mhm.
And that's a thing that holds some people back is not reading. So I want to encourage all of our listeners out there to read. Look for the information that you need inside of books. And then if you don't know something, ask the question to someone that's in the industry or where you're trying to go. Anthony, when you talked about goals, what are your goals right now? What are some of those longer term goals for you? How many units do you want? Or is real estate the only thing that you're in? Are there other things that you're looking to also work in? Because I know you mentioned having multiple streams of income as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So right now I do private lending. I lend money on seconds, for investors that I have a relationship with, that I trust. And I also, I'm working on the online course right now to, as you stated, put my experience from what I have learned from all the bumps and bruises, the hurts, the ups and downs I have experienced in real estate, to share that with somebody else who might be wanting to go through the journey, because being new and starting, I didn't have that person to look up to. If it wasn't for the guy at the party, I wouldn't have had that. I'm a licensed realtor, so I currently have that, and I make, I sell houses on the side, and I also buy houses, and I get that additional funds. I have a dealer license where I go to dealer auctions and I buy cars and I sell it online. Um, and then I have the rental, and I also do the flipping, and then I have the W-2 income that I'm doing as well. And I think my long-term goal is to get in a commercial. To next year, I'm already working on my 2021 goal is to have about 30 to 60 a unit of commercial buildings. I'm looking, different places like Ohio, Tennessee, Memphis, and things like that. So just being steady, but adding a leg under my table every year, or at least every 2 months. My goal by the end of this year is to at least have 25 units. And then by next year, I'm trying to go to about 40, 45. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
And sticking to the same process.
Yeah, sticking to the process. It's that 1+1 trying to equal 2. And one of the strategies that a lot of people don't often use or to talk about is the Burr method. Is buying, rehabbing, renovating, repairing, refinancing. I think that have been a really, really good strategy for me, and have allowed me to scale at a faster level, but skill with caution,
Mhm.
because you don't want to have 20 properties and you don't have 6 months of income reserved for each properties, because stuff goes wrong in real estate, and they can go wrong fast. And if you don't you don't have the capital to be able to to do a repair, you're pretty much stuck. Earlier this year, I had to change out 3 furnaces back to back to back, and then I had a flood in my basement that the insurance didn't want to cover. That I had to pay to get that out, and I had to buy the tenant clothes, and it was just a whole lot. But if I didn't have that reserve in there, and I wasn't disciplined with making sure that I'm just not enjoying the cash flow from my rental, but saving it and then reinvesting it, and having that delayed gratification a lot of people speak about, I would have been upside down. So making sure that you stay disciplined, and you stay on a course of consistency. Whatever that's working, continue to apply, and continue to apply pressure.
Good, good. Now let's talk about a little bit of your relationship with your tenants, because I see the messages that you put up, that you post. They all seem very grateful for having you as their landlord. And we all hear the stories about the slumlords and the bad relationships. What do you do in order to strengthen that relationship to show them that, hey, I actually care about you? You're not just somebody that pays rent for me. What is the mindset or the process behind that? What are you doing and why do you do it?
I think first and foremost, tenants are your business partner. That's how I look at them. And also growing up in an environment where when you're in the hood, people don't really care. You're almost like in a slum. You're just doing life, willing to, pass on to the next life. So a lot of things are not given to you. You are at the bottom is what people see it. So with my tenant, one of the things I over rehab my rental property because there are tenants who may have made an error. They didn't understand. They didn't know the game when it came to credit card. They
Mhm.
took a credit card, mess it up, ran it up, and then refused to answer the phone. They didn't pay, that credit got ruined. They don't understand how credit work. They never want to ask anybody because in the community that we come from, you can be proud and broke. And instead of being broke and saying, look, I'm proudful, but I'm going to ask somebody for help, most people don't do that. They hide it. Money conversation is not something we spoke about in my family.
Right.
Nobody really sat at a dinner table during Thanksgiving and said, hey, what are you investing in? What stock do you have? What other investment assets are you looking at? It was mostly about, entertainment, football, and things that doesn't bring you no income, doesn't really add to your life. So most of my tenants, they're good people. There are good people who will fall on hard time. There are good people, single mother who are struggling, wants to have a nice place where they can raise that kid, want to have a nice house where they can come and feel home to. And in my heart, I couldn't be charging a tenant 13, 1400, which is literally a mortgage, and giving them a crappy rental.
Mhm.
In Baltimore, you talk to some people like, oh no, just put passion paint on there and call it a day.
Yeah.
And my rule is if I cannot live in a house with my kids who I love dearly, if I cannot see myself in a house, it's not good enough for anybody else. So when I go in there and when they walk in there, they know that this is a house that could potentially be a home. So even if I'm not even responding to repair at a faster rate, they know they're not going to leave because the quality of the product is there. They know that I care for them. They know that it's a partnership. So I'm at the point where you're paying rent 6 months on time. I'm giving you $50 back, or I'm, putting something in. If you have a MD 529, I'm contributing towards that. So your
Wow.
kids too can have that scholarship for them to go to college when it's time. I do the same thing with my contractors. I get to know them. What are the likes? What are the dislikes? Do they have kids? Are the kids doing good in school? Can I give them a gift card, $25, $50, $100? Can I build that relationship with them? So my rental property is something that I take pride in because when I walk in there with my kids and my family members, I want people to know that I put a lot into it. And all my tenants know that my rental property can be a flip. I can take my rental property and put it on the market, or I can rent it. And most of the time it's like a flip because I want people to feel at home and I want them to feel safe. So that's why I go above and beyond for my tenant. And some, experiencing COVID, some people felt on hard time.
Mhm.
So having our reserve allow me to keep up with the rent, but also working with them to provide them with access to resources that are helping with tenant who can't afford that current rent, tenant who are struggling right now, helping them with job. In the same time, asking them questions: do you really understand how credit work? Do you really want to be in my house for 10, 15 years? Why don't you think about getting your own house? You want to have that house where in 10, 15 years you have paid down some principal and interest, and then you can sell that house when your son or daughter is ready to go to college too. So I'm not just getting money from them, but I'm also educating them, especially when it comes to finances, because I'm calling them and I'm checking on them. And it's more than just collecting rent. It's a relationship.
Wow. Now, there might be some listeners, especially some other investors who have a different viewpoint of this. And they may say, well, that's not advantageous to you to set somebody up to go further and to leave because you want to keep the property rented. What would you say to that type of response to what you just said?
I think everybody have different strategy. And that's the beauty about real estate. It's a whole lot of different strategies that people can implement. That's what has worked for me. That's what have been very, very productive, because when I work with tenant, they send me other referral who are also great tenant. Most of my tenant, even during COVID, have paid 3, 4, 5 days early, except a few who have fell on hard time. So it's the notion of good contractor hang out good contractors.
Yeah.
Bad ones hang out. Good tenant have other tenant who are also good. So when I do that, it bring a feeling of relief, because I know that I'm in this business to help people. And it goes to the concept of being an entrepreneur. You're a problem solver, right? So I want you to stay in my rental, but if I can help you get part of the American dream, have your own house, have a sense of ownership, I'm helping to change Baltimore. Because when you have a sense of ownership, you take pride in the house, and you start doing things to make sure that environment is not crime rating. Make sure that you are cleaning the street. Make sure that there's trash outside, you're picking it up. Make sure that you are formulating the homeowner association to change Baltimore. Because my whole goal of being in Baltimore is to help change the community. Baltimore is a direct reflection of Trenton, where I grew up. Low income housing, a lot of drugs, a lot of violence, and these are guys who they can take the same system that they're implementing selling drugs and replicate it in real estate and make millions of dollars legally. They
Yep.
can even do that in wholesaling and make $20,000 without the possibility of doing 20 years in jail.
Right.
They can do that, but they don't have somebody to say, look, you can do this the other way. Or they may have made a mistake at an early age where they went to jail and now they can't change that criminal record. So that's where I come in. They're seeing me like, man, what are you doing? And I'm teaching them, because it's bigger than collecting rent. Rent is a byproduct of what I do. Education and trying to change people's mindset is my ultimate goal. It's my objective. That's what I'm striving to do, is saying, look, you're here, you're paying rent on time. You can get a mortgage too, and you can pay that on time. It's okay. I don't feel bad if I'm helping a tenant elevate to the next level where they can be an ownership. They can have ownership in real estate, and it's fine with me.
Beautiful mindset. It's definitely all about the internal goals, the passion, the drivers, the motivators. Those things are what separate people from one another. And when it thinking about the game again, I follow a guy that's from I believe it's from New Orleans. Yeah, the Wall Street Trapper. He was in prison, for selling drugs. Well, no, he went to prison for attempted murder, armed robbery.
Mhm.
And he met a guy in there that told him, you know what, you guys are in the wrong game. You get more time for doing petty crime, and look at and I think that guy was in prison for embezzlement, but that guy taught him about the stock market. So when he got out, he just focused and put everything into the stock market, and he was able to elevate the people on the block.
Mhm.
Hey, don't just sell drugs. Get out of this and
Mhm.
get into the stock market. Put your money into something that you don't have to look over your shoulder about. So
Exactly.
it's definitely true that the same system that drug dealers have, that the gangsters have, that the people on the block have, you can take that mentality and change it. And if you want to be a hustler, but hustle houses,
Mhm.
hustle wholesaling, hustle stocks, hustle those things that won't impact your life if you get caught. So that's definitely good. And when are you have a great relationship with your tenants. I can see it in the messages they send. I can hear it from the way what you put out, and it's all about mutual value. You're adding value to them, they're adding it back. So as you continue to elevate them, your name will be known around Baltimore as the person, because they'll be like, okay, Anthony is the one. He's real. He's going to give me the truth. He's going to not beat around the bush with me, or put me in something that's unlivable. So definitely commend you on that. I want to go back to another thing with mindset, and I want to get your opinion on it. Coming from Liberia to the US, there is a gap between Black Americans and Africans in our mentality and in our approach in a lot of things. Do you or have you ever looked at, and you could just I want you to be totally honest with this, coming from the situation you came from in Liberia, do you sometimes see more excuses, I would say, on Black American side of I can't get out of this, the man holding me down, I don't have any opportunity. What do you say to that type of mentality? Because I see it all the time on my timeline, just can't get ahead. It's always somebody else's fault. Do you feel like coming from Liberia, seeing what you saw in that time gave you a different perspective than what Black Americans, I'm not gonna say we don't go through things, but I mean, a civil war to me is different than growing up in the projects almost. It's almost like what you went through was no choice. Sometimes we choose to stay in our situations, if that makes sense.
Mhm. I think the reason that me and you exist is you made it, or you are at a level in your life where you have accomplished things, and you came out of the same situation as most Black American. And when you factor that in with other situation that's going on in your life, you haven't given excuse. You continue to pull forth, and you continue to move forward and be productive. I come from a situation on the other side of the continent where I'm the outcome of slavery. And one thing that I credit my upbringing in Liberia is we value education over sports. Sports is cool, we like that, but we value education over sports. And I think in America, we put too much emphasis on sports. It's like if a kid is good in basketball, we want to protect them. We want them to be successful so they can go to the NBA and help everybody. Just imagine if that energy, that support coming to every game, the entire community, gym failed, if that entire mindset was put into a debate, was put into them, doing well on the SAT and throwing a party for them,
Yeah.
was put into them being in a STEM field. If we had that support and that passion for our kids to be, or even starting a business, was put into that. Our mindset is there, but our mindset is displaced. A lot of Black American mindset, I would say, is displaced. Granted, racism is definitely real. You experience that on all levels, but racism is just another resistance in life. Just like you're gonna go through failure, just like you're gonna marry and it might not work out, or you might have issues with your spouse. Just as you're gonna get a job and you might not perform to the level that you want. Just as you're gonna start a business and you're gonna lose money in the initial stages, and you gotta keep trusting the process. So for me, is being Black enough, it's an advantage. Being from the hood, it's an advantage because I've overcome something that nobody else have had to overcome. You coming out of the hood, you coming out of poverty, you being Black, you being a male, you trying to strive for something that was never there, that you didn't experience with any family member. You having to learn everything and be a guinea pig. That's an advantage. And our energy has to be in the right sector, because when you make it, I have no excuse of why I can't make it.
Yeah.
Zero. So I can sit here and point fingers and say, oh, it's the man that, but we all have equal access, as I stated, to library. We all can read books. We spend more money on alcohol. We can take that money and spend on a seminar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I look at my college time, I'm like, I spent $1,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in student loan. Can you imagine if I have gotten a mentor at 18 years old?
Right.
With $60,000 in real estate, what I could have done at 30? That would be awesome. We spend monies on Jordan, and we can buy stock in that company. We can get stock in Nike's.
Now you talking.
Yeah, for real. We could, but we are stuck on instant gratification because we are good at showing people that we have it when we know we don't. And that's why we invest in luxury. That's why we want to look shiny. We want to look like we're good. But success is delayed gratification. Wealth is built over time. The wealth that these people enjoy from generation to generation, it took time. Warren Buffett didn't become a billionaire overnight. It took years and years and years and years. And that's that process that you have to trust. And it's not pretty. It's messy. It's slow. Because I can go out and buy this and this and this, but I want to grow it. It's about the bigger picture and not the instant gratification. And I think that's what, as Black people, as people, African descent, that we have to understand that we have the ACE card because we have survived traumas of hundreds of years, and it's still going on. We see it now. And if we have overcome that and we still have a level headed and we can still think, we can change that mindset and put it in the right direction. Go back to the drug dealing and selling drugs. It's all about flipping money. That's all you do as a house flipper. You take 50, try to flip it into 100. You take 100, try to flip it into 150. They buy drugs, they get the profit, they try to flip it. And they're stepping on it and doing stuff with it. But that's all we're doing. We're going in there, we're stepping on the house too. We're rehabbing it, we're putting things in it. And we're trying to sell it for a bigger value. And that's all it is. But too often, not knowing the game in the hood is not seeing somebody that look like you that's doing something different. It's often condensed to playing basketball, selling drugs, or maybe singing and dancing or rapping.
Yeah.
That's the three things. And you can't have your life be limited to three things. You have to have that omnipotence mindset that is limitless. You can create, and that's one thing I learned when I first read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I started to learn that my mind is a tower. Whatever I think every day, I attract. And I'm where I'm at in life because of everything that I have thought. I'm a direct reflection of what I think every day. And I can win here before I can win out there. Well, I first must win here. This is where the battle takes place. This is where the fight takes place. This is where you have to sometimes go in the mirror and have that conversation with yourself. Like, I know this is what your mom said about you. I know your daddy wasn't there, but that don't mean you're going to be the same thing. I know you're black, and they're saying that you can't be a leader of the Fortune 500, or you can open your own business and be a multi-millionaire, but you can do it because you see that person who have done it. You see that person who have done it. So what's your excuse? So it's that honesty where we all have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, if he didn't, I can do it. If she's doing it, I can do it. Now, what system are they using that I can tap into? How can I go to that seminar and find out that strategy that he's using to make thousands and thousands of dollars? And the downside of like the current social media is people see instant gratification. They see the car, but they don't understand. They don't understand the behind the scene. It's work. It's work being a landlord. It's work dealing with tenants. But at the end of the day, you own something. And that owning something is the pride in it for me because I know I didn't come from it. And I can change my family trajectory. And in the process, I can educate tenants to say, Noah, I like that you pay me rent, but you can also pay your mortgage. So what's up? What's your excuse?
That's good. That's good. You just hit on so much of the key points, especially dealing with the mindset, the delayed gratification, the having ownership. When I listen to like the Wall Street Trapper and other people, they talk about how much money we spend in these brand names when we could own a piece of that, own a share of that. He was talking about he bought some Berkshire Hathaway B because the A stock is like 300 grand per share. But he bought a B stock because you can go to the shareholder meeting and talk to Warren Buffett if you're a shareholder. So it's things like that. How can we get in the rooms with those people who have those systems, who know that game, who have the process? Well, we have to have ownership. We have to be producers and not consumers. For me, I think a lot of our issue is with delayed gratification and just being consumers of information. Well, consumers of products and information, but we don't take it and do anything with it. How many broke people or people who say they're struggling have on Jordans on their feet? Like you said, just to look good. And I saw a quote the other day. I can't think of all of what it said, but it was like, you're broke trying to impress somebody else that's broke. Just don't worry about that. Don't worry about the flashiness, the shininess. And we have landlords and investors out there that, hey, they might buy a rental property to pay for that shiny new car. So they have a plan, a process with it. They're not just taking their money and wasting it. They have a plan behind it. So it's okay to have nice things, shiny things. If a big house is for you, have a plan, know the game, trust the process in order to do that. And we're getting towards the end, but I do want to just highlight that. And I want you to talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing back in Liberia. I know you go back there, you're doing some investments there, right? Or building a hospital there.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
So, one thing that plague a lot of African countries is the access to a good medical facility. And after visiting Liberia, because I was away since I was 13, I went back when I was 28. Um, and a lot of people don't have access to hospital. In Liberia, you can be sick and dying until you pay the money to the doctor. They're not going to treat you. So there's no such thing as insurance or billing. People. There are women who a lot of them die in labors. A lot of women, out of 10 women who go into labor, maybe 4 or 5 would die
Wow.
due to labor pain. And this is 2020. There's also 85% of Liberians are unemployed, and the 15% who are employed, they are underemployed. Like my mom, she's considered rich because she's making $2,500 a year, and where the rest of other people making $25, $30, and they're underemployed. And then you have different generations because the kids who are my age who stay in Liberia from 1989 to 2005, they were all child soldiers, so they never went to school. So you have that lost generation. Then you have the current generation who don't have access to proper educations. So the hospital allowed me to eliminate two things, and that's to provide jobs to surrounding communities, have a modernized hospital that can provide equipment, medicine, modern medicine to surrounding communities, and also help out with jobs. Because I really do think if you employ people adequately and provide them with some type of income, it will help. It will help them. It will also help the surrounding community. So building a hospital there, the first hospital is something that I'm putting a lot of my money into to build. And my goal is to have one hospital in each county in Liberia, and that's about I think 16 or 17 county in
Right.
Liberia. And if that model is successful, it's also replicated. So I'm looking to like partner up with a big hospital here, such as John Hopkins, and we can take volunteers out there. We can teach people the proper way. I have my brother who recently, I think he broke his legs. He went to the hospital, and the first surgery they had the doctor said, "Oops, I forgot." After he stitched his leg up, and said, "Oh, I forgot. I left a needle in there." It's like, what?
Oh, man.
And he had surgery with no anesthesia. So he
Wow.
had to go through the raw pain because they said no pain, no gain. That's how the thing out there. And then he went there the second time. He said, "Oh man, I forgot to put the screw on it." So he had to open back up his leg. I'm saying, this is a real story.
Man.
Then went there the third time and said, "Man, I think I drilled a hole in the wrong side of your leg, so I got to drill in the other side." And then the fourth time was when they got it wrong. So after 4 different times, and then guess what? They charged him each time for the entire surgery, even though that was the error. So those are the things that our brothers and sisters back home are experiencing. And I believe in putting my money in the right place and not just helping myself, but
Mm.
to also help other people in the process. And so that's one of the things I'm doing in Liberia. And I had a foundation since high school to it's called Anthony Dix Urban Reading Foundation. It's to foster the love of reading in urban community, to get kids to start devouring books, or when you're feeling bored, when you're feeling like you can't go out, especially with COVID right now. Get some books, read it. It takes you places, it takes your mind places. You experience things without being there. So it's fostering our love of reading, because I noticed that a lot of people who are successful are readers. A lot of people who are successful reader. If Warren Buffett is consuming 4 books a month and he's a billionaire, what should I be doing? Probably 6 or 7. I'm poor. I have no time to be on YouTube or social media. I'm trying to close the gap. So what am I doing with my 24 hours? Every day that I'm closing that gap. And am I here spending 8 hours on TV on like love and hip hop? I'm not hating on them. But am I watching NFL from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Sunday? Or am I going to read some books? So that's where we all have to be honest with ourselves. So it's just putting my money to the right place, making sure that, reconstructing my mindset and, making the best out of my 24 hours.
That's yeah. And you reconstructed my mindset right now. I mean, everything that you're saying, um, and as entrepreneurs, as business people, and as people who are constantly elevating ourselves, one thing that we always look at is, that self-awareness. Are we self-aware? Do we know who we are? And then are we authentic? Are we doing what we say that we want to do? Are our actions lining up with our goals? So that's something that even I battle with, constantly making sure that, hey, am I really self-aware? Do I understand where I'm trying to go, what I'm doing, and am I being authentic? And there's some areas where I can say, honestly, no. I say one thing and then I do another. So we're all adjusting. This
Mhm.
isn't a journey that you end. This is a continuous process throughout your entire life that you continually make adjustments. We're all making adjustments. So as a listener out there, you may be thinking, well, I'm not where you guys are, or I don't feel what you're talking about right now. And that's okay. What you have to do is begin, take that first step, and then continuously make adjustments in the process. When you went back to Liberia for the first time after all those years, were you accepted? Were you welcomed?
No, I wasn't welcome because I was looked at as American. Um, and a lot of my family members didn't really recognize me because they saw me, I think, when I was actually 9 years old, because that's when I went to Ghana and I was there for a few years. So when I came back as a grown man, it was different. Also seeing my mom after 17 years, she was still stuck on seeing me as a baby,
Yeah.
as a 11 or 9 year old, and it was different. But that's the byproduct of a civil war, when you have families who are displaced, when you have siblings that you haven't seen, and you don't know what they went through during that time. You don't know what have changed in their life, and you trying to pick up where you left off, but it's not the same. So you have to almost like reconstruct or
Mhm.
rebuild that relationship. So since then, I've been going there. I wanted to do agricultural, to like send people to school where they come back and they, do sustainable farming in the local villages. I mean, it's so disheartening that most people in Liberia don't even know what a Wi-Fi is, never seen a computer. Most of them never seen TV. Or some places where I come from, they never even seen what a car looked like. And it's 2020. Yeah. So that's how delayed they are. That's how way, way back they are. So it's about doing different things. Same thing I do in Baltimore. It's just, go out there, talk to kids, share my experience with them, and let them know that, look, you too can do it. I'm not different. I have every reason to not be successful. Every reason, all the excuses you can think of, I have it. But I chose to go against the grain. I chose to climb the mountain. I chose to say, this is my goal. This is who I believe I am. And this is who I'm going to be. And every day I think about it. Every day, even if I have a bad day, I take out the trash. You have to get that mental process. You can't keep the trash there for a long time because it's gonna start to get rotten and stink. So you gotta take it out. Take it out meaning you gotta read. Take it out meaning you gotta see your affirmations. Take it out meaning you gotta call that friend who's positive, who when you are down, they can talk, some light, they can borrow some of your confidence, or you can borrow some of their confidence. So that's what I want kids to see, because what I'm doing is bigger than me. Money is gonna come. It's a byproduct, but trying to change the mindset of our community. It's the mindset that we're struggling with. It's not the ability, it's not the talent. It's the mindset that we're struggling with. Until we start to understand the economic advantage that we have in this country and what we can do as having overcome all these obstacles as black and brown people, we're never going to be free, because you can free the slave, but if you still have the slavery mindset, you're still a slave.
Yep. Uh, Nothing but the truth. I got two more things for you, and then I'm gonna let you get out of here. What can we do? Or because just hearing you talk about Liberia and how behind they are, as Black Americans, slavery ripped our heritage away from us. a lot of us don't know where we come from. We don't know our ancestors. We don't know our history. So we don't even have a lot of connection. And it's just recently that I have started trying to think about, man, I don't have any connection with my African brothers and sisters that are out there. I don't know where I would have come from. I don't know my ancestors. How can, and I want to limit it to Black Americans just because we have to help ourselves before we start to look outside our community and help other people, but or want help from other people, especially our white brothers and sisters. But as a Black American, and even as Africans, just Africans, how do we begin to help lift up our African countries? Because I've seen other posts where people talk about how behind those countries are in the world, how they're still trapped economically by European nations. How do we even begin to make a change, make a difference? How do we, because it seems like if all the resources come out of Africa that do, how can African countries begin to join together to create a stronger, more powerful union and get what they deserve or take their rightful place as a superpower in this world?
Um, I think one thing I think Denzel said one time about media is if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed, and when you watch the news, you're misinformed. And a lot of the time, we watch the news and we are misinformed about Africa and the potential. There are things in African country that the world need. So if the world needs some of those things, and they're all going back, but they're telling us not to go back into Africa, something's not right. Something doesn't line up.
Yeah.
Africa is the only continent that's made for Black folks. But because we have been so much misinformed about Africa and it's just about animals and safari, we haven't gone back. And a lot of Black Americans have not getting the opportunity to visit African countries and see the potential that's there and see the resources that are there. Everything that you do here, you can replicate that in African countries. They're willing to welcome you back. That is your continent. I would tell all Black Americans that's your continent. You can go to any African country that have participated in slavery, especially on the west side, the Ghana, the Sierra Leone, the Liberia. They are dying to have you there. You can go to Africa and live a lot better life in African country, Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, or Senegal, Cameroon, than you would do here. But it's the fear and the misinformation that have branded us for so many years. And because a lot of us do not take time to have personal development, personally educate ourselves, we have been a byproduct and the victim of miseducation. And that's what's plaguing us at this point. Because we are not willing to read past the K through 12 education curriculum that we have been gotten, that we have gotten rather.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for me being so inquisitive about education, I would have just taught myself like, oh, you know, Black history is limited to three people: Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
And there's so many other things that Black Americans have contributed to the modernization of America. There's so many other people that you don't even hear that name. Like I was watching the first Black billionaire from Baltimore, from what's his he played football and he bought I think a sweatshop or something like that, and he became the first Black billionaire from Baltimore. I think it was like Fitzgerald Roosevelt or something like that. He had played football and then he went into business, and then he did that. And I'm like, man, he came out of I think Dunbar High School,
Okay.
and I was like, man, he did that, but you don't hear about those things because they keep it away from you. You don't hear about the Magic Johnson of the words that who goes in and partner up and buy a sports team that generate multiple championships. So when we don't take time to educate ourselves on countries in Africa, we become a victim of what the media tell us. And there's so much potential in African countries, and they're so willing and open arm because what they do is, I'll tell you this, is in Africa they say all Black Americans are criminal and they will rob you.
Wow.
And then in America, they say, oh, Africans, they don't have education. All they do is hoard animals and lions and tigers. So when we come here, we are suspicious of each other. I'm looking at you as you're going to rob me. You're looking at me as, oh, this guy don't know nothing. So that mindset is already on the playing field.
Wow.
Because we never really educated ourselves about the potential. So until I came here, I always thought all African American was drug dealer, they rob people, but that's not the case. That is not the case at all because we don't educate ourselves. And when we do educate ourselves, we don't apply the knowledge. We have so much potential. And Malcolm X said this, and I'll say it again. There will come a time where Black people are going to tap into the knowledge and that potential, and they're going to unite. And when they unite intellectually, economically, it will be a scary thing. And I think that day is coming because we're starting to be woke. We're starting to understand the power that we have, and we're starting to understand the importance of our voice and our collective voices and what we can do as people. So that's something that I would encourage all Black Americans, go there, go visit. The money you're using in other European country, that can be used in Africa. The money that you're using in other businesses can be used in a Black business. You tap into that resources, tap into that potential. Let's support each other. Let's start having the mentality of the crab in the barrel, where we're bringing each other down. And I think it was a bodybuilder who once said that one of the most passionate speech that he ever heard was people telling he can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, that's the speech we give each other. I would tell you why you can't do something versus how you can do it.
Right.
We gotta be there to support each other.
Wow. That's good. That's good. I definitely appreciate that layout, that information. And last thing, I know that we are all big on and looking at generational wealth. So I definitely see the pictures where you're taking your kids into the property so they can see the process, so they can begin to understand the game. Tell us a little bit about what the plan is for that generational pass down of knowledge and wealth, and how you specifically pour it into your kids.
I think, like you said, dealing with kids is like planting a seed. You don't know when it's gonna sprout, or in some cases, you don't know when it's gonna click. So for me, I didn't have a dad that knew anything about finances. So when I'm taking my kids, I'm explaining things to them in real estate as if they were adult. Whether they are understanding it or not, I'm just saying it. And I say in every properties I take them to. So my thing is, okay, if I pass away, do I have life insurance to take care of them?
Yeah.
All right. A conversation that we don't have and was never had with me.
Right.
When they turn 18, do I have money for them to go to college? Do I have the 529, or do I have a house that's sitting on equity that I can sell and pay that way through college, that if that's what they choose to? When they turn 24 or 22, when they're going to get a master, do I have money to pay for that master? When they turn 28 or 29, when they get married and buy a house, do I have money for them to put down as a down payment? When they get older and they want to start a business, what else do I have? Are they going to turn 18 and be at the starting line financially like I was? Or are they going to be running or walking with other kids? So what am I doing? So the generational wealth is about sacrificing, because I'm a first generation wealth. So I might not enjoy what I'm building right now, but it's okay, because it's that delayed gratification that we speak of. I
Yeah.
might not see the fruit of my labor, but eventually when I educate them about the importance of money, the 70-10-10-10 rule, 70%, $1, 70% of your income was not see your expenses, charity, investment, giving, all those things. So I didn't understanding that. Am I drilling it in the head consistently? And I'm okay if I don't enjoy my wealth, or I don't enjoy the fruit of my labor, because I know I'm building a tree that eventually they're going to enjoy the shade of it. They're going to enjoy the fruit of it. And for me, I'm okay with that, because that's a sacrifice that I have to make as a person who didn't come from money, who didn't have that education, because I'm trying to change that mindset. And I'm also telling myself, the money I'm generating, do I have estate planning? Am I telling my attorney what I'm getting, how to allocate it properly? Because if I don't teach them and I leave it with them, they're gonna lavish it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get an 18-year-old $50,000 and think he's not gonna go somewhere and blow it off on something.
Right.
So it's also about how I'm educating them and what I'm also putting in place, so that when they're a certain age, if he or she is 22, they don't have a bachelor, they don't have a master, they can't get a certain amount of money. And then I take that money that I have invested, that interest can then be reinvested, that compound interest, or that rule 72 that
Mm-hmm.
most people don't understand, that can be reinvested for their kids. So if they have kids, that money then can be invested, and then they can get that, and that can keep going, and that can keep going. So that's the importance of understanding the game, because most people don't know about rule 72. Most people don't know about compound interest. Most people don't know about estate planning. Most people don't have conversation about life insurance and how it can be a game changer. Most people don't understand how your income should never exceed 70% of what you bring in. They don't understand that because they're never taking the time to educate themselves. And that's where we are lacking. We are not educating ourselves.
Beautiful. That, Anthony, I just want to appreciate everything that you've brought today, all the information, all the wisdom and nuggets and life changing. Just what you've said is life changing. What you've shown us through the process is life changing. And if anyone's listening, you definitely can pull from that and you can do the same thing. All the things that he's talking about, you can get that same information, books, people, just reaching out. And the internet is at our fingertips. The internet will give you everything that you need. Now you have to be able to discern between good information and bad information, but information nonetheless is out there. So as we wrap up, Anthony, is there anything that you want to say, anything that you want to leave us with for the people, something that you may a tip, a hint, and then let us know how, if people want to just reach out to you, want to connect, want to network, how can they reach you?
Uh, well, I first want to thank you for having me on your show, and giving the opportunity to just tap into your viewers and just share a piece of my life with them. And I also I admire and appreciate you, because before the show you invested into me. You took time out of your schedule and you was managing, I think, 100+ properties, and you took time out of your schedule to invest in me. And that's what I try to replicate with other people. So I'm very indebted. You're part of my success, and I'm very, very grateful to you for what you did to me, because I was at an early stage of my investment career, and I wanted to see other people who look like me, who were doing things that I wasn't giving excuses. So I'm very appreciative of that. I think what I will leave with your viewers is, just trust the process, do things consistently that are aligned with your goals, do things consistently that take you closer to where you want to go. If your goal is to make millions, but yet every day you spend 10 hours on the internet and TV, it's not really, that path is not going towards your goal. Surround yourself with positive people, people who are where you want to go, and don't be afraid to pay for seminar, mentorship, and courses, because people put a life into these things, and people are I sacrifice and give you things on the penny, like the thing you mentioned with the guy having 14.99 or $15,000 invested into a book. That's a penny. That's a penny on the dollar of what you're gonna get. It's a penny. If you can invest $15 into your wealth and education, where else you gonna invest? Do you think that's worth it? So you can reach me at Anthony Diggs on Facebook, and the real Mr. Diggs on Instagram. I try to be active on social media, but most of the time I have a timer where I have to log in and log off. I try to share my life with people, not because I want to show what I have, but I want to show people of people that where I come from, you too can make it. You have no excuse. No being handicapped, no dad, haven't seen my mom for a long time, having to adapt a language barrier, being homeless, being rejected out of college, you know, struggling in real estate and then making it in real estate. Those are all things that you too can get if you're willing to pay the full price. Success is not sold on Black Friday. You're not going to get on a discount. You have to pay the full price. And it's okay because I can pay the full price for 5 or 10 years now and live 30, 40 years okay. Or I can choose to be mediocre and go work a job till I'm 65 with bad knees, bad back, and not having nothing else to do. So are you going to believe in yourself and you're going to trust yourself? Or are you going to have to go with what the narrative or the script or society tell you have to be? So you just have to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. And that's what I want you guys to take from my life story.
Beautiful. Anthony, thank you again for joining me. I definitely appreciate it. And we definitely have to do something like this again soon to just maybe dive actually into the process of buying a rental, renovating it, getting a tenant, actually give a breakdown and just walk through that entire process. So we'll do that on another one. But I think this show was great to talk about the mindset that's needed before you ever even get into that game. Because if you don't have the right mindset, you'll get washed out because it's not easy.
Absolutely.
Yep. So thank you all for joining us again for the empowerment platform, which is dedicated to you as a viewer, as a listener, because we just want to help you reach your goals. Our mission is to empower you to reach your goals. And we do that by just sharing information from real life stories that show that you can make it as well. So again, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.